YouTube Ozzico in the Goat House is back. And today wasn't just Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers day. The franchise tag deadline was today. 8 tags were given out. And I'm here to break all those down and grade all 8 of them. I got some interesting takes here. Once you start really thinking about these and what they could mean, it gets pretty interesting. So excited to go over my thoughts, my grades here. Our Twitter got all this news as it happens, rumors, predictions, thoughts, more, always talking numbers on there, restructures, everything. Must follow. Check it out. Link pin in the comment section along with some other important links. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Full off-season coverage, draft, trades, free agency. We will grade every free agency signing once it all kicks off, pretty much as they happen here on the channel. So can't wait. Join us for all that. Much appreciated. Here's our Twitter. Just everything we're talking about here. Constant news, constantly talking about everything. All those numbers that everyone wants to know about that no one else is really putting out there. Check it out. At Goathouse NFL, link down below. Orlando Brown, the Chiefs tag Orlando Brown at 16.662. I gave it an A. Yeah, some of these aren't so straightforward. You really got to think about some of these. This one is pretty straightforward. A guy they couldn't let hit the free agency market. So the Chiefs do right. They get him back. Maybe it's a little bit of an underpay for Orlando Brown, but in the ballpark, it's a pretty good price, more so for the Chiefs, but it's pretty good for both parties. I also think both parties are still trying to figure out what he's exactly worth in terms of value per year. Keep in mind, for all of these teams that could still work towards almost removing the franchise tag and creating a long-term deal. It's possible for all of these teams still, so we'll see if that happens. But for the reasons I explained here, just makes sense here. Just makes sense for the Chiefs. So I gave it an A. Browns tagging David Njoku. Didn't love this one here. I think the mistake the Browns made was opening negotiations, too early with David Njoku. It kind of gave him leverage, realizing what the tag price was. Maybe he almost not really pushed for the tag, but maybe he was asking for more than this to get the tag. He got the tag, which is a pretty good payday for him. So if I was grading Njoku on this, it'd be a very high grade. So Browns panicked a little bit, made sure they got him back, and they did get him back as a young, improving, I suppose, tight end here. But I do think it's a little bit of an overpay. Some people are talking about the tight end market is about to be crazy. I think certain tight ends, I wouldn't say crazy, but maybe higher paid. I don't think Njoku. Also, those are kind of assumptions, predictions that the tight end market have been crazy. Maybe wishful thinking, trying to speak some of this into making sense a little bit. I don't know if the tight end market have been that crazy. Just no one really knows, I guess. More teams going more towards using more receivers too, so that'd be another reason why I wouldn't have. I don't think another team would have valued Njoku like the Browns. So I think if he went to free agency, my opinion, I think the Browns could have got him back for a long-term deal for maybe less than this. Another thing is when you pay these guys young, he's got upside. You pay these guys based off what they can be. That's true, and maybe Njoku could be worth this amount, but franchise tag is 1-year deal. Another thing why it's kind of maybe why Njoku maybe wanted the franchise tag is it's a pretty good price, and if the Browns, because the Browns already came to him and kind of told him, hey, we want to work on a long-term deal, puts him in a good spot. Now he gets a tag first. Now let's work on that deal. He's not going to come down far on a per-year basis on a long-term deal from that price. He's already got that price, that number for that franchise tag sitting there. So why would he go, 8 or 9 million, I'll take that. So Njoku in a good spot. The Browns, I think a little bit of overpay, a little bit of panic. I think they're a little in on him a little too early, and that resulted in Njoku kind of getting exactly what he wanted here. Browns had a decent amount of cap space. It takes a pretty big chunk out of it because the cap hit will be that number. Exactly. On a long-term deal, you kind of obviously can spread some of those cap hits out, so it could be smaller in the front if you choose it to be. Will they work on a long-term deal? Will they be on the tag for this year? We will see. This tight end tag I actually like. Mike Gesicki back to the Dolphins. It just makes sense. Another one that just makes all the sense in the world. Gesicki, I think, would have been worth a little bit more than this because he's very much proven, big playability. Teams looking for those move tight ends, athletic ability. With the athletic ability, he can play in the slot, can play outside in the red zone. Again, has that big playability. So I think we got a little bit more in this. So the Dolphins get him back on a pretty good price. And it's just better than a long-term deal too, because the Dolphins get a new staff in there, right? Mike McDaniel and company. I think Gesicki will work with them, but maybe they're more of a fan of a true inline tight end, So now they kind of get a little bit of a trial. You bring them back for a good price. You get a little bit of trial and see if it works out or not. And then you can work on a long-term deal if it does. If it doesn't, move on. Maybe it's a trade deadline or something like that, and maybe or maybe you lose them in free agency next year. But I think it'll work. But it makes all the sense in the world, like I said. Dalton Schultz to the Cowboys. Cowboys tag him. Same price, tight end tag. This one's a little bit, interesting because if he would have hit free agency, they might have lost him because they're tight in cap now and in the future. He's a balanced, proven tight end, so maybe somebody could have overpaid him. I could see that. So they probably would have lost him. So the good is they got him back, and they made sure they got him back. I guess the negative is because that's the full cap hit, that $10.931 million. That's the full cap hit this year. The Cowboys are desperate to clear space. They're restructuring deals. We were talking about the exact numbers earlier on Twitter with Dak Prescott, Zach Martin. They're going to cut Amari Cooper. So they're scrambling. This takes a pretty big hit from them. So best case would have been a long-term deal with maybe a cheaper cap hits, at least in year one. So, but they keep him off the market and they get him back. So I gave him a B. This one's interesting in a different way here. The Bengals tag Jesse Bates, $12.911 million. It's so good financially for the Bengals, so good that it's like an A+ financially for them. That it's so good that it's like it's not good in a way because Jesse Bates is severely getting underpaid at this point, and it's at the point where maybe he's unhappy about it. It just can't be good. It's their star safety, and they're going to work towards a long-term deal. But $12.911, in my opinion, severely underpaying him. Overall, it's still good for the Bengals. They save some money. They keep their star safety. Obviously, they don't let him hit the market. But it'd been a lot better if they gave him his right money on a long-term deal. It would have felt overall just better. But yeah, you got to be unhappy with this. But of course, they could still reach that long-term deal. My question is, because they've been working on a long-term deal for some time now, what the hell is going wrong in there? What? It almost feels like it's got to be the Bengals lowballing Jesse Bates in a way, because there's no way Bates is asking for something outrageous. Because if he asks for, him and his agent have to know if he asks for something outrageous, he's going to get the tag. He doesn't want the tag. He's going to get underpaid then. So it can't be something completely outrageous. I honestly think it's worth to make him the highest paid safety in football. I don't think that's outrageous at all, So there's no way he's asking for something stupid, So are the Bengals kind of lowballing him here? Eventually they'll work out a deal, in my opinion. I'm confident with that. But pretty interesting to think about. Overall, again, get him back, actually save some money. But I think it's better off long-term deal there. Chris Godwin tagged. It's his second tag, so 20% raised off of last year's number, $19.179 million. Yeah, the Buccaneers probably can't afford to go into the season with that full cap hit of $19.179 million. The only way to get around that is work a long-term deal. That's kind of the negative. The positive is they probably will work a long-term deal. The long-term deal actually could pay a little bit more. Mike Williams got $20 million per year, so Godwin could get paid a little bit more in this here for sure. I'm just a little confused because it said they were working towards down to the wire, down to the deadline, working on a long-term deal with Godwin. It's like, did they just start working on it? Because if they would have worked on it a lot earlier, I think they would have got a deal done. So the Buccaneers just didn't really know what was going on, with a lot of these retirements. So that kind of threw them off a little bit. So maybe worked on this a little bit too late. I still think they'll get a long-term deal done here with Godwin. So the good news is they got him back. It's a pretty large cap hit for this year, which they will, they don't want that full cap hit. So we'll see if they can work around that there, get a long-term deal going. So I gave it a B. Overall, good that he's back. Devontae Adams, Packers tag Devontae Adams. I don't love this for the Packers. Here's kind of my hot take. I don't think it's that hot, but other people may, because I've seen people saying that Devontae Adams is kind of a loser in this because players don't want to be tagged, and this is an underpay for Devontae Adams. Part of that's true. The only part that's true is it's an underpay for Davante Adams, but I don't think he's a loser in getting tagged. He actually could be a winner. It's actually could help him a lot, and I'll tell you why. It's because the Packers are very, very tight cap space-wise. Very tight. They got to clear a lot more. Even with new Rodgers deal, they're going to clear some space, be able to push money back. We were talking about the numbers on Twitter. Even with that, they got to clear a lot more space to be able to manage. And they got to do it by next week. So you got to be positive. Every team's got to be positive. So what does that have to do with this Davante Adams here? Is he gains leverage. He knows the Packers cannot go into the season with $20.145 million as his cap hit. So when it's a tag, that's the cap hit. If it's a long-term deal, they can actually pay him more, but they don't have to have the full cap hit right away. They kind of could spread it out there. So it could be a cheaper cap hit now, which they desperately, desperately need. So since the Packers desperately need that, Davante Adams knows it. He knows they can't go in the season with that cap hit. He pretty much can get what he wants. That's really not a loss for the Packers, though. I guess depending on the price, because best receiver in football, they got to pay him. So it's not a loss for the Packers here. It's just that you're kind of letting your player gain the leverage over you. And the Packers were we don't like the tag. We're not going to use the tag. We're going to sign him long term, and they still can, but they kind of went against that a little bit, their words. So I don't really love for the Packers because, again, they only got a week to work with here. They have to get positive by next week. It's a rule, So it doesn't help when currently Davante Adams is a $20.145 million cap hit at the moment for them. It just does not help, So I think Davante Adams is, I think he's going to get what he wants really here from them, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But I think people are wrong saying he's kind of a loser in this. Dead wrong, actually. So we'll see. I'm sure the Packers, they have another part of the leverage too. Rodgers is back. They have to keep Adams. Adams has to be there. So I think they're almost giving him the check with this. So we'll see what he gets. He's deserving of it. Can't wait to see that. And then we got one more. We got Cam Robinson, which I actually, believe it or not, I was talking about this on Twitter. I really, really like. I gave it an A. I think this is a good thing here. And I'll explain all of it. A first glance for people is they tagged Cam Robinson again, $16.662 million. It's a decent tackle. They got the first pick to take a left tackle. I think that's the way people look at it. And they think they think it. It's not. It can't be good, right? It can't be good. Well, first off, believe it or not, he would have got that amount or maybe more as a free agent, Cam Robinson. He's a young tackle. There's a shortage on tackles. Young tackle with experience, with upside. Team's desperate for tackles. So he would have got that or more. If less, it'd be a little bit less. And that's realistic. I think that's fact there in free agency if that was the case. The Jags take him off the market. Remember, the Chiefs took Orlando Brown off the market. Limited tackles. There's already limited tackles in the NFL. There's already desperate teams, loads of desperate teams for tackles. So the Jags insurance with this, they get insurance with this, but they also created multiple good scenarios for themselves. So they could pay Cam Robinson this money, and they can still pay other big-time guys. They got loads of cap space. So let's play out some scenarios here. Well, first they can just keep Cam Robinson. They have the first overall pick. Now they're in position not get desperate for a tackle. They can take the best player available. I'm still sure they're kind of looking through grading everyone, getting those things final. Maybe it's a tackle, maybe it's a pass rusher. So they're free to do what they want there. They keep Cam Robinson, so they still have a left tackle. They didn't have to, kind of go back to square one. You're letting them go, draft the tackle. That's kind of one scenario, which to me it is good. Another scenario is, let's say they go to free agency, use their cap space. They go for a guy like Teron Armstead or similar. There's not too many similar, but a guy like Teron Armstead who they can pay. There was rumored they might be interested in too. They take him off the market. When they took Cam Robinson off the market, they paid Teron Armstead. So now they have Robinson and Armstead. And then there's a bunch of teams real desperate for tackles. They can then trade. They got a trade piece here, potential trade piece. They could trade Cam Robinson to desperate teams. They'll be definitely wanting to take him. Be willing to pay him that, and then try to reach a long-term deal with him, his new team that is. So that is very, very possible as well. So you may have just saved yourself like some trade piece ammo here. Another thing is, let's say they just get to the draft and decide, maybe we do like Evan Neal or Ikem Ekwonu, and then And then teams missed out on their tackles in the draft because it's kind of top heavy as well. And they can trade Cam Robinson in the draft or after the draft as well. So it's insurance. He could be their guy, or he could be that big time trade piece. So to me, it makes sense. Because you let him walk, you get a third round compensatory pick, likely, maybe a fourth at worst, third or fourth for next year. Or would you try to get a little bit more out of him, or use him because maybe he works, still got upside. Maybe he works with this new coaching staff, new system. And again, you can just take, maybe you want a pass rusher with the first pick, so you still have your left tackle. You didn't create that hole there. So there's just so many things that make sense, and I think more could actually come from it, like I said. So really thinking about this one, you realize these things, and I like it. It makes sense. It's a good thing they have a lot of cap space. It's a good thing they got a lot. People are ripping that organization, for the last several years. Hey, they saved up some cap space at least. It was a good time to have a lot. So makes sense to me. The tag makes sense. So we'll see if he gets traded or anything like that. Free agency's next week. If they do sign a guy, I'm not predicting they will, but or maybe not. I'm not saying I'm not predicting them to, but let's say they land a guy like Teron Armstead. That tells us right off the bat. I guess there is a scenario where they can move one to right tackle, Robinson to right tackle. Do they move on from Juwan Taylor? I think they would trade Robinson though. So we all be waiting for that, and then maybe a non-tackle draft pick, first overall. So Jags play a big part in a lot of things actually going on here moving forward. It's interesting too. I think Rodgers played a big part. Waiting for Aaron Rodgers' decision that all kind of unfolds. And now the Jags might be playing a big part, how things unfold here with, Teron Armstead, guys like that, like the tackle position really, and will Robinson be available? Which teams? There's going to be teams that are going to be left out of getting that tackle that they need. There's going to be teams, so we'll see what happens here. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Again, I keep mentioning these teams could rework deals with long-term deals with these guys, so that could obviously change some things. We're always talking about those types of things on Twitter, so check us out there at Gross NFL. There's a link down below. Like, subscribe to notifications on full off-season coverage here. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.